The housing sales slump hits Stockland. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, stein of coffee in hand, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from commercialrealestate.com.au, originally from the Sydney Morning Herald. It's discussing, well, the home buyer slump that's putting pressure on Stockland. I think very relevant just to the state of the economy and to all of us involved in the construction industry. Because, frankly, it's going to flow through to the rest of us, no matter what part you're working on. So Australia's extended lockdown and sudden halt to migration are undermining diversified developer Stockland's strong start to the year and threatening earnings from its land estates and retail portfolio. Now, we were looking at Stockland earlier this year, or last year, and they were divesting from a lot of their retail centres. I think $1 billion they were getting out of it. If we have a look here, let's jump over to this screen and look at their share price. Now, at the beginning of the year, in February, what was their peak? $5.32 Australian, $5, $5.42. Now it's $2.71. So it's shed a fair bit, Whoa, $1.80 in March. So it lost more than half its value. And it's crawling back again. So we'll have to see how this news affects it. Stockland, the company's largest house developer and the country's largest house and land developer, is a bellwether for the home buyer sentiment, but its strong pre-virus home buyer-driven recovery has come unstuck in the pandemic, with its retail portfolio also hit hard by the pandemic. Well, yes, and as I've argued before, there's going to be ongoing changes to consumer behavior. That's what we're starting to see, and if that goes on, it's going to impact them more than we realize. Is demand for housing going to be as high if migration decreases? What if less people are renting? More people are consolidating, moving home, staying together, saving money where they can. Settlements are running in line with the pre-pandemic levels. It's been sales where we've seen the real slowdown, with the restrictions on people's movements, Chief Executive Mark Steiner said. Prior to the outbreak, Stockland had experienced a promising start to the year. Sales on its housing estates were strong, and the transformation of its retail centres was going well. In a quarterly update on Wednesday, it reported a sharp slump in land sales in March and April that is likely to weigh on earnings, with sales contracting to 137 lots in April. By the end of the quarter, it had settled 3,034 lots, 59% below its pre-virus guidance of 5,200 lots for the financial year. 59% below its guidance. What's that telling us about the housing market, everyone? What's that telling us? And we overlay that to the FOMO that the property bulls are trying to push. This is the thing, the more of this stuff that we look at and read, the more little pieces of the puzzle that we put together, the more where we see just the optimism of some of the bulls is simply based on search results. I'm becoming even more and more cynical, guys. Every time I grow my beard back, it gets wider. It's worrying. However, despite the turmoil and uncertainty caused by the outbreak, it said settlement rates for land lots on its estates are stable and buyer defaults are relatively low at about 4%. We'll have to see. Is that because they're allowing buyers to put off settling, or are buyers trying to on-sell like was happening in Melbourne with other developers when land dropped 20% there? The $6.5 billion ASX-listed property manager owns and develops popular housing estates such as the Gables in Sydney's northwest and Culverton in Kilcoyle, I buggered that, on Melbourne's northern fringe. Calcalo? You'll correct me in the comments, guys, I'm sure. Stockland warned, however, while new buyer inquiry has recovered to pre-pandemic levels, it was still too early to identify clear trends. We remain cautious about the shape and speed of recovery of the market, he said. Well, that's quite sensible. That's quite sensible. I mean, their stock price took a hammering. And construction is a big employer in Australia. Housing is a big employer in Australia. And a lot of it is underpinned by immigration. We'll have a look here, guys. I'll bring up the Foreign Investment Review Board. This shows you the number of building approvals for foreign investors. See the black line, how it's nearly 100% over in 14-15, and how we had a property spike. Blue is new investment in new housing. Red is established. So there you go. That's why they chuck everything at our housing. All the government, state, federal, throw everything they can at housing. The group is hoping inquiries will translate into sales. Again, it's not sales, it's just inquiries. It's very cheap to do inquiries. Even this last weekend, we had very strong outcomes in Melbourne. That's suggesting there's a degree of pent-up demand and also a reduction in supply. Or it could be that people are anticipating a decline in the market, so they're just preparing and doing their research. Analysts at Macquarie Group added further clouds to the group's horizon, forecasting buyer defaults will shift up to 10% in the second half of this year. While we are constructive on the medium-term outlook for residential markets and buoyed by the increase in inquiries over recent weeks, we believe the short term will be characterized by lower sales and elevated defaults or delays, they said. Here's the thing, if we're hearing this, we're hearing CommBank predicting their worst case, a 30% decline in property. We've got this situation where even with insane cash rates at virtually zero, banks are still being forced to give people mortgage holidays. The other day we read about 100,000 additional home loans that were deferred. What does that scream for confidence? Consumer confidence is in the gutter, everyone. Business confidence is in the gutter. Do you think people are going to rush out and buy now? Or are they going to wait? If they have the capability to, they'll wait. They'll wait. See what happens. What do you think will happen to property once they've officially declared a recession? Just look at the number of people that are no longer employed or categorized as employed, but aren't technically unemployed because they're on job keeper. Historically, there's no precedent. Like many of its real estate trust peers, Stockland owns and manages multiple shopping centre clustered in housing estates it has developed. Mr. Steiner said those malls experienced the greatest impact from the pandemic, with significant falls in foot traffic, non-essential store closures, and sharp sales declines in specialty stores. Around 60% by income of its malls stayed open. As of this week, 75% by income had reopened. As the new normal comes through, people can come back to work quite quickly. You can see that in our shopping centre portfolio, he said. Yes, but will people be spending the same? Will people be going into as much debt now that they've experienced this? Hopefully not. Hopefully this will be a never again moment and people will wake up. Trading conditions for non-essential goods and services are expected to remain challenging. In response to the uncertainty, the group withdrew its future earnings guidance in March and put a freeze on employee remuneration, training, and recruitment. What does that tell you? When you freeze training, of all things, guys. The board and executives also took a 20% cut in fees and fixed salaries for a 2-month period starting in May. They're going to have to do a bit more than that. Stockland's retirement living business is also impacted. Sales volumes of units in retirement villages are slowing and customers are taking longer to sell their existing homes, limiting their ability to move into retirement. Its office and logistics properties are less affected by the uncertainty. And this is the thing, this is where they were transferring. They were selling some of their retail portfolio and going more into logistics. But we'll have to see what happens to office. Depends. Maybe they've got a, I'm not really familiar with the quality of their portfolio. Are Stocklands positioned in A-grade buildings or AAA or A+ in the city, or are they more B or C fringes on the outside? There might be more demand for the cheaper product, particularly if people can work from home. Mr. Steiner said he was not in a position to give further guidance, but added, when you're talking about going into 2021, it's logical that you see a reduction in sales, which would result in a reduction in profit. So if we jump here, we can just have a look to their announcement from the ASX. You know, after a promising start to the year with strong residential sales and settlements in January and February, positive comparable sales growth in retail town centres, and ongoing high occupancy in the workplace and logistics portfolio, the impact of the pandemic on the economy since March has presented challenges across most areas of our business. We've tackled the pandemic challenges proactively, and our response to the pandemic has to date included prioritising the safety of their staff, implemented best practice safety management, they're keeping their retail town centres open, providing free space for temporary testing centres, increased communication with their customers. They've actively reduced or deferred variable and non-critical expenses, which is helping cover their specific costs like additional hygiene measures. This includes placing a freeze on remuneration, training and recruitment, and implementing other cost-saving measures. There you go. And I'll let you go through this at your leisure. I'll link to it in the pinned comments below, as I always do. So guys, what do you think? Do you think this is a leading indicator for other parts of the construction sector? Do you think it'll affect consumer confidence? Are you in a trade? Have you noticed it? As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via affiliate links at Amazon or eBay, or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, buy our merch from HeiseSays, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. I'll see you next time.